Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company, the bank that puts you first. They can meet your banking and financing needs for personal, agricultural, business, commercial, mortgages, and so much more. Visit firstbank.com to learn more.
A top 20 team comes into Blacksburg as Virginia Tech football hosts Louisville for the first time as ACC opponents. Let's preview the matchup on episode 449 of the Tech Sideline podcast, which starts right now. We're recording on Thursday, October 30th, 2025 from the Tech Solutions studio in the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center. If you're watching the show on YouTube, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and refer the show to a friend. I'm your host, Riley Klaus, and today to my left, I'm joined by lead analyst and columnist Chris Coleman. Across the way, our founder and general manager, Will Stewart. To my right is senior staff writer Andy Bitter, and producing the show behind the scenes, as always, is Mr. Nick Brown. Now, we're here to talk about the preview against Louisville, but before we get into that, there's a lot stirring in the coaching search for Virginia Tech, specifically about James Franklin recently. What can you say about what's going on?
I've always maintained that they would be a natural fit for each other. James Franklin has spent so many years recruiting the Mid-Atlantic. He assembled a staff of Mid-Atlantic recruiters at Penn State. He could recruit very effectively within Virginia Tech's 6-hour radius. Blacksburg is a smaller but yet similar version of Happy Valley. Passionate football fan bases. It would be a marriage that made sense. But there's going to be a lot of schools after James Franklin, and I'm sure the parties have talked. Of course, I mean, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? And I think both parties understand the fit it would be. I would not expect James Franklin to make a decision on his future this early. There are other jobs available. You know, he got on College Game Day and said his goal was still to win a national championship.
He said next year he wanted to be in contention for a national championship next year, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that.
I think he said the goal is still to win a national championship.
Right.
Not to make the playoff, to win a national championship.
You look at Virginia Tech has not won a national championship. But, you know, what could come open still this year? Auburn, potentially. Florida State, potentially. And, you know, they've won championships not in the distant past, like, you know, 2010 and later. So that's why I feel like this whole process started so early. You know, Pry was fired, what was it, September 13th?
Yeah, sounds about right.
So this is now, you know, we're over a month out from when that's happened. I think people are getting antsy because it's been so long. These coaching processes normally go to the end of November. That's just sort of the timeline that you get. It'd be unprecedented to hire somebody this early. So the idea that like there's some sort of deadline or something like that from James Franklin, like they have the leverage right now. The coach does. Like the schools are more desperate to try to get somebody locked down now than the coaches are to be locked into place. So I think if it happens, and I think there's a chance it happens, I still don't think it's going to happen for a while. Would be my thought. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not.
I do. Yeah.
Well, I think it behooves his agent, Jimmy Sexton. So if you're not familiar with Jimmy, once upon a time, about 10 years ago, had 50% of all college coaches as his clients. It's probably a lot higher now.
I think he's got like 16 SEC coaches.
How many teams are in the SEC? 18?
Yeah, right.
What's with the other two? What's up with them?
I don't know.
So, you know, it's I said on the message boards this morning that while all of us Virginia Tech people are playing checkers with the Virginia Tech job, Jimmy's playing chess with the entire landscape of college football and all of his clients, and he's trying to maximize the value for all of them. I had a neat clip sent to me of Lane Kiffin on the Pat McAfee show, I think, and they were just asking him. I don't remember what prompted Kiffin to say this, but he said, you know, I don't care about money. I care about fit. You know, if I'm going to coach somewhere, I care about fit. He goes, I just don't care about money. He says, Jimmy Sexton doesn't like to hear me talk like that because Jimmy cares about money, and that's Jimmy's job, you know. So I get it, Andy, but I also think that, I mean, at this point in time, how much money does James Franklin need, you know? And I do think the Virginia Tech job is a really good fit. You can sit there and list other jobs that are open around the country, and yeah, some of them are better. The Florida job is better. That's a prime example. But most of those places and most of the places that are going to come open are what I call loony bins. You're stepping into the fire right away. At Virginia Tech, not only do you have the fit that Chris talked about of recruiting in the Mid-Atlantic, but you're not going to be expected to win 10 or 11 games and win the national championship right out of the gate. How much does this stuff matter? How much does he think about this stuff? I don't know. I think about it. I just think if you look at the landscape, this job is a really good fit for him. And selfishly, I'd like to hire James Franklin because it'd be good for business from the get-go. If you hire Chesney out of JMU, that's a good hire. I think he's a good coach, but you're not going to get the influx of dollars and enthusiasm I think you would get with Franklin right away. Franklin's a big time hire. That will get national attention. People will talk about that. So those are some random thoughts about it.
Lane Kiffin say he doesn't care about money. He's making $9 million a year. So
there's
it's
a
real
point where
easy to be like, I don't care about this.
You got enough,
yeah.
man. You know.
Well, guess what? He's going to get a raise this year wherever he ends up going, even if he stays at Ole Miss. Another thing to remember about Franklin in terms of if his goal is national championship, what kind of access will you have at different stops? You look at the ACC and you go, yeah, it's an easier path to win the conference, but you probably have to win the conference to get into the playoff. And I know last year they got 2 in, barely, right? Wasn't SMU like the 11 or the 12 seed in that whole thing? If you want to comfortably get into the playoff in the ACC, you have to win the conference. It's not the case in the Big Ten. It's not the case in the SEC. I mean, SEC, you could be the 6th best team. They're talking about putting them in the playoff right now. And if it were up to the SEC, they'd put 10 teams from the SEC in there. And guess what? The SEC is going to control the playoff going forward, the SEC and the Big Ten. So is that a consideration for a coach like Franklin? And again, it's so early. There are still so many jobs that could come open. I just wonder if he says, you know what? I'm not going to quite decide yet. Virginia Tech could still be a possibility later down the line. I don't think if he tells Virginia Tech, hey, just cool it for a second, 2 weeks, maybe we can revisit this or something like that. What is Virginia Tech going to hire somebody else? All the other coaches are playing. Or we'll turn to Bob Chesney. It's like, well, he's coaching a team right now. You're not going to take him in the middle of the season.
He's going to be coaching a team into December.
Right, and you can have conversations ahead of time. I'm not naive enough to think that you can't have back channel conversations like that, but you can't come out and finalize that thing. If it's not finalized, then what are we talking about here? So I think the timeline it's going to take longer into November because that's just how the timeline of this coaching carousel works.
Yeah, and with Sexton controlling so much of college football, you've got to understand that his first big hire this year sets the market for everybody else, right? So it behooves him to get his client to hold out for as long as possible and get as much as possible. And that sets the market for all his other clients.
Yeah. And Franklin is already available. So whatever let's say he does something with Franklin before the end of the year, that's when all the major movement starts happening, is at the end of the year. Andy's got a good point about it behooves Virginia Tech. They're working very hard on Franklin right now, but if there isn't a decision and a commitment, Virginia Tech has to continue to talk to other candidates. But yeah, that's this weird situation where it's actually not even November yet, and the other guys you're interested in are still coaching. So, Sexton understands all this stuff, and
Jimmy Sexton is not afraid of schools talking to other candidates for these
because they're all
his
candidates.
No, you're going to move on and talk to somebody else.
Right. Oh my gosh, I got that guy too.
I think he's experienced that before in his time.
So a lot still to be figured out. If you want some more information on the Virginia Tech coaching search, make sure to check out the latest episode of Talking with Teal. You can click up there to get that. But now we're going to shift the focus to the upcoming matchup between Virginia Tech and Louisville on the gridiron, which will take place this Saturday on November 1st at 3 o'clock in Lane Stadium in Blacksburg, Virginia. The Cardinals are currently favored by 10.5 points going into this game. And when we take a look at the history, this is just the 10th ever matchup with Virginia Tech leading at 6-3, but they've only played twice since 2006 when it was a matchup in the Gator Bowl. And I was talking with Nick before the show, even Virginia Tech has hosted Cal at Lane Stadium before Louisville as an ACC opponent. Does that feel odd at all with just how the schedule's been over the last decade?
This was a game I was always looking forward to, and now it's here after 11, 12 years in the league.
This is their 12th year in the league.
12th year in the league.
Crazy.
They were supposed to come to Virginia Tech in 2020.
Right.
So was
COVID.
Penn State. That was going to be a great year for Virginia Tech fans.
Yeah, I don't know if people remember that or not, but Tech and Penn State were scheduled for a home and home in 2020 and I think 2021.
Yep.
So with that being said, now they do get to play, and Louisville is ranked 16th in the country. They stand at 6-1 with their signature win being an upset over Miami. But to start with who's in charge, Jeff Brom now has been there since 2023 and an impressive 25-9 record at Louisville. He's done a great job with the Cardinals so far there.
He did a great job at Purdue. He had a winning record in the Big Ten at Purdue. Since he left, Purdue is 3-20, right?
Not great.
Not they're only good with him or Drew Brees, and that's pretty much it. So
They did beat Virginia Tech here.
Oh, I know.
Purdue did, just
right?
to-
And who was coaching Virginia Tech? Yeah,
That's
true. And so that's just he's just a really good coach. I think you could make a strong argument that he's the best coach in the ACC, and he's a Louisville grad, so I don't think he's going to be like trying to job hop to like the Big Ten or the SEC or something like that. So he's a guy that the ACC is going to have to deal with for quite a while, it seems like.
He's not just a Louisville grad. He's like Louisville born and bred. Like he's so ingrained at Louisville that, man, it would have to be a great opportunity to go somewhere else that I'd be surprised if he did. Maybe if it's a couple years down the line and he's realizing he's hitting his head on the ceiling of what they can accomplish at Louisville, or it becomes obvious that you need to go somewhere else to really achieve those, national championship ambitions you might have. But I mean, that's a well-resourced program they have at Louisville. He's very much ingrained in the culture and the program there. It just seems like you talk about fits for head coaches. He fits Louisville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware until looking him up just now that he was born in Louisville, Kentucky, went to Trinity High School, played quarterback for Louisville from 1989 through 1993.
I mean, I remember when he was in the NFL. He was like third string behind Montana, Steve Young, and then there was Jeff.
Well, do you
Brom.
remember he was in the XFL?
Oh, I forgot.
Because they interviewed him in that extra session, and they're like, "Are you ready for this overtime?" It's like, "I got 2 questions." It's like, "Do I have a pulse?" "Yes, I do." It's like, I forget what the second one is. Like, it's time to play football or something like that. It's like they show that clip every now and then. It's a pretty good one.
Do you remember the name of the team he played for in the XFL?
Oh man, no.
Like, this is totally going off the rails here. The Orlando Rage.
The Rage.
What was his head-to-head record against Jim Druckenmiller?
That's a good question. He went undrafted, but yeah, he did have, what is this, about 6 or 7 years in the NFL.
Yeah.
So good for him.
So Jeff Brom, a name to know in terms of this contest. And when we start diving into their personnel on the offensive side of the ball, let's start with the signal caller, Miller Moss, who has had a long college career, first at USC out on the West Coast, and then transitions to the Cardinals this season.
If you look at his stats, he's basically on pace to put up almost exactly the same numbers he put up at USC last year. He's solid, not spectacular. His completion percentage is good. His passer rating is not so good. I wouldn't say they're all that efficient in the passing game. They've only seemed to really have one deep threat.
For listeners and watchers, can you read his stats off of the roster card?
Yeah, 65.2% completion percentage, 1,793 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's not a runner, minus 77 rushing yards on the year. The offensive line at times has had trouble protecting him. I thought Louisville had a great game plan against Miami to negate Miami's advantage up front, and it was a significant advantage, but it was just such a really good coaching job by Louisville that it didn't end up mattering.
Yeah, they got the ball out quick. ESPN, I think, or whoever was showing the game at one point ran a highlight package of 1.5 seconds ball out, 1.9 ball out, 2.1 ball out.
Right. Yeah, so he's solid, but not spectacular, and his effectiveness is sort of dependent on some other aspects of the Louisville offense, I think.
It just feels like they have a good system set up for quarterbacks there. Like whoever Brom has, they're going to get production out of it. I mean, it's Jack Plummer a couple years ago, Tyler Shuck last year. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
And that goes all the way
he
back
got
to
drafted.
Purdue,
He's
right?
going to start coming up for the Saints this weekend.
Wow.
So when you have a coach who has such an effective system that he's in charge of, basically, I think he knows what he's looking for at that spot. He's going to get production out of it, regardless of who the player is.
And when we look at what's around him, let's start by keeping it in the passing game. Chris, you kind of alluded to it, but really the star in the receiving game has been Chris Bell for the Cardinals this year.
Yeah, he's already caught more passes this year than he did all of last year. 48 receptions, 687 yards, 6 touchdowns. Leads the ACC in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. 6'2", 220. He reminds me a little bit of like Anquan Bolden, if you remember him, who played for Florida State and then in the NFL for so long. He actually looks like a running back. He's physically built like a running back. When he catches a pass and you see him running through the field, you think, oh, that's a running back carrying the ball. He had 3 forced missed tackles against Miami. He had a massive game against Miami. And, he's really put together a few really good games here in the last month. He's going to be very, very difficult for a young secondary, a young and inexperienced, banged-up Virginia Tech secondary to handle.
I think it's made tougher by the fact that they have a couple guys in their salary. Colin Lacey is pretty legit too. So, you're going to double team Bell the whole time? Probably not, because those other guys are going to hurt you through the air. So, I think it's just the totality of this offense. And I know we'll talk about the running backs here in a second. It's sort of a pick your poison type deal. Who are you going to cover? Where are you going to put your attention? If you do it too much in one spot, they're going to beat you a different way.
So I just want to highlight what a freak Chris Bell is. He's a senior, and he's been at Louisville all 4 years.
His whole career.
That is getting to be the dodo bird there.
Steadily progressed. Just a few catches as a freshman, then 20-some as a sophomore, and then 43 as a junior, and now looks like he's going to catch, depending on how long of a run they make, he'll end up catching 70-plus passes this year probably.
He's been really impactful for him. Andy, you alluded to it. Let's talk about what does their rushing attack look like in terms of scheme and who they're giving the ball to.
2 Browns. Isaac Brown is the number one guy. 75 carries, 652 yards, 8.7 yards per carry. This is a guy who last year as a freshman led the ACC in yards per carry. Last year, I think it was like 7.1.
Right.
And he's got 2 runs over 70 yards this year, and 1 over 60. I mean, he just makes big play after big play. Their offense was a little bit limited earlier this year when he was banged up. He had a lower leg injury. Yeah, that's what everybody likes to call him these days. But he is healthy again, had over 100 yards against Miami, and he had 15 forced missed tackles on 15 carries against Miami, and then had over 200 yards last week against Boston College. So he's healthy again and rounding into form, so Virginia Tech is not catching him at the right time.
Well, they got another a backup guy that whose name is escaping me right now. Kewan Brown. But they also have Duke Watson, who's been hurt this year and is coming back. I don't know if he'll be ready for this game, but this tells you the wealth of backs they have here. I mean, Duke Watson averaged 8.9 yards a carry last year.
As a freshman. Again.
Yeah, didn't have enough carries to qualify, I think, in terms of yards per carry for the leaders there. But, I mean, that's a deep running back room that they have that if all 3 of those guys are ready to go.
They're all sophomores.
Yeah, and I don't know what Watson's situation is. I think he missed the last game at least. But they have a lot of talent there and a deep crew that they can go to.
And also want to discuss in terms of their offensive line, how could the Hokies stack up in terms of forcing pressure here?
Their offensive line is actually their weak spot. Their tackles aren't great, and one of their guards isn't particularly good either. So that's Virginia Tech's best chance in this game. Tech's defensive line, especially the defensive tackles, has played pretty well this year. It's just you can't expect them to make every single tackle. I mean, they can't cover every single gap. The issue has been linebacker and safety run fits and things like that. That's the biggest concern, is that when Isaac Brown gets in the open field, either a linebacker or a safety is not going to be there, and if they are, they just aren't going to tackle him, because those units for Virginia Tech have been pretty ineffective this year, especially the secondary.
Well, we'll talk more about the defense and as well what is going to upcome in the game. But Will, what are some numbers that we could keep an eye out on going into this next contest that are intriguing with Scott Glesner?
All right. Stat Time with Scott Glesner today is presented by Tyrus Homes. You see the Tyrus Homes helmet behind me in the newly illuminated, previously cave-like window over there. And we're also very excited here on the Tech Sideline podcast, because pretty soon we're going to hang some lights here that are going to finally properly illuminate this person here in this chair. So David and I have been long suffering in the 4th chair over here, while you guys all look handsome and well lit. All right. So I apologize. I didn't get a chance to go through that. Usually I go through the Stat Time with Scott Glesner stuff, and I prioritize it. I put numbers next to it based in the order of things that I want to, in the order that I want to say them. So first, let's do the Tyrus Homes ad read. At Tyrus Homes, our mission and purpose is to build houses that people love to call home. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a growing family looking for more space, or an active adult seeking a relaxing home environment, we have the home for you. Visit tyrushomes.com, and that's TYRIS homes.com. So here we go. Virginia Tech has lost their last 8 November openers. That
Fun
raises
times.
some eyebrows. Last win was November 5th, 2016, 24-21 over Duke.
That was an ugly one.
That was ugly. Duke was ranked, right? Does that ring a bell?
They were not ranked. Tech was ranked. Remember, it was 2016. Tech blocked a field
Was that
goal, I
a,
believe, for a touchdown.
Adonis Alexander had a hand in that, I
that
think.
sounds right.
Wow, there's
Greg
there's a name
Stroman
from
picked
the
it up, I
past.
think.
This is the third time out of the last 4 contests between these two teams that Louisville has been ranked. Virginia Tech appears to have 2 more ranked teams on their schedule, which would be Miami and Virginia. However, the most ranked teams Virginia Tech has faced in one season, which ranked at game time, was 6 ranked teams in 2007. Number 2, LSU, loss. Number 22, Clemson, win. Number 2, Boston College. We won't talk about that one. Number 16, Virginia, win. Number 12, Boston College, win. Number 8, Kansas. We won't talk about that one either.
Worst trip of my life.
Freaking Orange Bowl.
Wouldn't you
like,
kill for a bad Orange Bowl
Yeah, I
trip right
would.
now, though?
What I hated about it really is it was cold. Like
That's
at
true.
at the hotel we stayed at, they told us it was the coldest it had been in Miami in 50 years. Of course, it's the year we go down to Miami. We're staying right on South Beach, and it's 50 degrees. Yeah. Oh, well.
what year was it that Virginia Tech beat Cincinnati
The
in
next year.
in the Orange Bowl?
The next year.
You drove all the way
I
down there for
drove
that,
to
right?
Miami for that.
Oh my
And it was I stayed in Fort Lauderdale that time. It was it was much better weather.
Florida is a long state.
It is a long
Like
state.
you're like, oh, it's not that big.
You
It's
get
like,
to
no,
the border.
it is.
You get to the border and you're halfway to Miami.
You are not close once you hit the border there.
Isn't it something like 500 miles to the Florida border, and then it's another like couple hundred to Orlando, then another couple
That
hundred
is a
to
drive I will
Miami.
never make again. I can promise
And
you.
you made it by yourself, right?
They sure did.
Oh, that is horrible. I think you may have mentioned this, Riley. Louisville's never won at Blacksburg. In their last meeting in Blacksburg, and cough 1991, cough, Virginia Tech scored 31 points in the second quarter. I would take that for
How
a
many
game.
did they score in the game?
I don't know. We'd have to look that up. I remember going to that game, and that was a really tough schedule that year. But Virginia Tech had a 3-game homestand against Louisville, Cincinnati, and somebody else, and won all 3 of them. It was a blowout. What was it?
43-13.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. Man, I was 27 years old. I had a ball at that game. Wow. In the last matchup versus Louisville, Virginia Tech had a total of 140 yards, 2.7 yards per play. This is the lowest total yards for Virginia Tech since the 2015 loss to Pitt.
That was the most non-competitive game of the prior era.
Absolutely.
That Louisville game,
Until recently.
34-3.
Until Old Dominion, maybe.
Yeah, but at least Old Dominion, they got some yards going.
Right.
They were completely overmatched in that Louisville
Yeah, they
game
were.
from the start.
Yes.
Could not do anything offensively. Couldn't really stop them.
69 passing yards, if I remember
I
correctly.
think the first drive was like sack, like incompletion.
Well, we know how
punt.
this
It's
is
like,
gonna
yeah,
end.
it went south directly from the start.
So that was 2.7 yards per play that day. The Pitt loss in 2015. How many yards that day, Chris?
100, I believe.
100 yards, 1.9 yards
That
per
was.
play.
I remember how that game poured down rain, man. It was awful. Brendan Motley was starting.
Yeah.
It was just a wretched game. I don't know, like, what was the score to that game? Because it ended up being
was 17-13.
right. Right. I don't know. Tech somehow scored 13 points
Off 100 yards of
100
offense.
yards of offense.
Classic Frank Beamer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember that was the game where afterwards people are like, oh,
Okay, it's time.
It's
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Oh, so Virginia Tech had 2 100-yard rushers in the last game against Cal. The last 4 times the Hokies have had 2 100-plus yard rushers in the same game, they've lost the following game. Pattern's probably going to hold. The last win was they beat Central Michigan after Darren Evans and Tyrod Taylor had a bunch of yards against NC State.
That was when they beat PJ Fleck.
This is now this is interesting. The Yeah, that's right. Central Michigan. The last 5 times Virginia Tech has rushed for over 300 yards like they did against Cal. The following game, Virginia Tech has not reached 125 rushing yards. Last 5 times.
Might happen.
The last time they did that was they rushed for 99 yards against Georgia Tech last year, and they actually won the game. And that came after the Bashal Tootin game against Boston College last year.
It was against Georgia Tech's backup quarterback. They had a run where they kept playing Georgia Tech's backup quarterback every time that they did it.
Right. They had a run last year where they played a bunch of teams backup.
They played everybody's backup quarterback.
Fool's gold. All right, last one in this Stat Time with Scott Glesner, presented by Tyrus Holmes. If Virginia Tech does not force a turnover versus Louisville, the Hokies will not have forced a turnover in 3 straight games now. This has never happened on record.
Oh, good Lord. Wow.
And Scott Glesner's stats go back to 1935. So
who was the last team to turn it over against Tech? NC State?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Nick says yes.
Wait, no?
Wake.
Wake Forest is the last team to turn it over. So if you guys can humor me while I look something up, I'm pulling up Virginia Tech football stats because I want to go over the red zone statistics, which still continue to be Virginia Tech's opponents are, where's the red zone?
I think they're 32 for 32 in the
I
red zone.
believe you are correct. They are 32 for 32 with 23 touchdowns. So Virginia Tech has still not stopped an opponent in the red zone. And on that cheery note, that has been Stat Time with Scott Glesner, presented by Tyrus Holmes.
To be fair, they were close against Cal. It would have had like a 4th and 10 or 4th and goal from the 10 if not for that horrible roughing the passer call. So.
Now, to be fair, like Tech is, they only allowed 3 touchdowns in the red zone against Cal, 3 of 5 trips. And it should have been 2 of 5 if not for the call. Right. Yeah. So they did buckle down last week.
So they're getting better.
Yeah, exactly.
You remember last year when they forced like 6 turnovers inside the 5-yard line?
Remember that?
There was a streak of games. This is unsustainable.
That Stanford backup quarterback who was so bad, he's taken off towards the end zone and it's like, dude, all you're going to make it is 3 more yards, and he just drops it.
They had a knack for that last year, but you knew it was unsustainable when you're watching. It's like, how often can you rely on turnovers down there?
Good times.
Well, the Hokies will look to get one of those this Saturday. We'll preview more of the Cardinals' defense and picks for the game, but first, a message from one of our sponsors at Tech Sideline.
This episode of the Tech Sideline podcast is brought to you by Rich Web, your local provider of top-tier IT managed services. For 30 years, Rich Web has offered a comprehensive suite of cutting-edge solutions tailored to empower businesses of all sizes in today's digital age. From top-tier network engineering services, ensuring seamless connectivity and security, to our exceptional managed endpoint and cloud services, providing proactive maintenance and strategic optimization, we're dedicated to delivering excellence at every turn. Rich Web, driving enterprise IT. Visit richweb.com to learn more. Rich Web has proudly hosted TechSideline.com for over 2 decades.
Thank you, Rich Webb, for sponsoring this podcast. Let's continue the discussion as we go to the Cardinals defense. And this is a defense who is currently ranked 2nd in passing defense in the ACC in terms of yardage and is tied at the top with 12 interceptions in the league. So what stands out in terms of their passing ability on the defensive end? Well,
they're just balanced across the board. They're good against the run. They're good against the pass. Look at that. They're 21st actually in both. So they're very balanced. So it's like they don't have a weakness, which makes them extremely difficult to attack. I think so. You have to look at your own strength, and Virginia Tech has to run the football in this game, and they shouldn't worry about how many yards they're gaining when they run the football. It's just because if Tech passes it against an elite pass defense like Louisville, it's not going to go well. And at the very least, even if you're not breaking off chunks in the running game, you're shortening the game. You're running clock and things like that. And obviously, if you go down 14-0, you've got to adjust your strategy to a certain extent. But they're really well coached, and they really dominate the game up front. Clev Lubin was a transfer that I really wanted from Coastal Carolina. He's one of the best edge players in the country this year. Congo, their defensive tackle, is really good. I mean, they don't have a weakness on defense. Out of their entire rotation on defense, there's only one player that grades out for the season below the PFF baseline of 60. And I think they've got like 5 or 6 guys that grade out above 80. So they're just really, really good across the board. And unfortunately, there's not really a weakness to exploit.
It seems like they have had a sneaky good defense for a while now. You think about Louisville and you go, oh, Braum, he's going to put up the big numbers. And they had Lamar Jackson with Petrino and Malik Cunningham and all this stuff. But their defense has been pretty good, pretty consistently near the top of the ACC. They always seem to have some ferocious pass rusher, whether it's like Gelati, Abdullah was really good for a while there. There's always somebody that really stands out in that front. So, historically they have a pretty solid defense, and I think this is one of the better ones that they've had.
Yeah, and they don't make a lot of sacks. They don't get a ton of tackles for loss, but they're still only allowing 286 yards per game. And that just kind of shows you that they're just solid and well coached. They're really tough to get out of position. I think this is the week if you've got a trick play, you call a trick play. When I watched Louisville James Madison earlier this season, it was a good game. And the first play from scrimmage, James Madison called a wide receiver pass, and it was wide open.
Yeah.
And James Madison guy just threw it way over the open receiver's head. It should have been 7-0 JMU at first play. So maybe, like everybody else, they can be susceptible at times to trick plays. Marcellus Hawkins was a high school quarterback who threw for 1,300 yards as a senior. Virginia Tech got that pitch option going with him last week. If that's in the playbook at all, this might be the week to break it out.
I mean, you got other guys. I mean, Cam Selden, high school quarterback. Aiden Green threw that touchdown in the spring game. We haven't seen that play.
Hairston.
Yeah. So
how about the old tight end pass with Jerishas Hairston?
There you go. I mean, all sorts of things you could do, but I think you do need to get clever a little bit because Kyron Drone's not the most accurate passer, and Louisville has gone out there and they've intercepted a lot of passes. Look what they did against Beck.
Four.
4 interceptions, including the one that decided the game there at the end, which was a really nice pick, if I remember, like a diving interception that guy made. This is a secondary that I think can make life miserable for a passer, and that has not been a strong point for the Hokies this season.
Now, we have this season, like you guys have been adamant that they're great when running the ball for Virginia Tech's offense. When facing this defense, is that still the way you'd lean in terms of attacking the game plan?
Yeah, I don't think you can come out there with an ineffective passing game and just sling it all over the field. Like I said, you've got to shorten the game against a team like Louisville. It's very unlikely that the Virginia Tech wins, but that's the best path to victory. You don't have to rush for a ton of yards. You're not expecting to rush for a ton of yards, but you need to go out there and understand how, if you're going to win, you have to understand how you have to win. And going out there and trying to get into a shootout with them is not a way to do that.
Plus, I think they're more suited to do that. Just the way this offensive line is set up, haven't been good at pass blocking. But run blocking was pretty effective last week. You've got those big runners. I've said it before, Terrion Stewart is huge. Kyron Drones is a huge running quarterback. Marcellus Hawkins is the small back, and he's still a load to take down. If you can just pound it with those guys repeatedly over the course of a game, eventually, defenses don't want to tackle that at the end, or they get tired of tackling that. So I think that's the goal. That's what you want to get to. Can you keep the game close enough to still have that game plan? That's the key. Didn't happen against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech got up by 3 touchdowns. What are you going to do? Run the ball every play to get back in that game? No, you got to throw it at that point.
I assume you guys saw the clip of number 5 for Cal kind of just shoulder bumping Kyron Drones on his overtime touchdown.
Oh,
run.
yeah.
He didn't want to have anything to do with tackling Kyron.
That dude would be on my bench the very next game. That's ridiculous.
So looking at the graphic, if you're listening and not looking, you can't see the graphic. Virginia Tech is 79th in the country in yards per game, 83rd in points per game, 103rd in passing yards per game, and 41st in rushing yards per game. So, it's pretty clear how they should attack.
Run the dang ball, man.
You need a hat. I mean, they've got
there
hats
is a
for
hat.
sale.
There is a hat you can get. It says either, I don't forget it.
There's not just one hat. There's a billion hats.
But there's one I think you can get locally. I forget whether, the Southwest Virginia shop.
You need one that has like a little light up switch so you can wear it, and whenever you say it, you just pull a little cord and flashes, run the ball.
Yeah. Maybe that should be the new red shirt thing.
Yeah. So that's the kind of insight you can only get on the Tech Sideline podcast.
That's right.
Absolutely. Can't get it anywhere else. And now when you take a look at the special teams, is there anything of note for Louisville that really affects this game?
Lacey, Colin Lacey has 2 punt returns for touchdowns this year. Granted, against Bowling Green in Eastern Kentucky, but he's still very, very effective. Field goal kicker, solid. Their net punting is not good, but opponents have only had 7 yards of returns against them this year, so don't expect Virginia Tech to get a lot going in the return game. Their kickoff guys generally kick it out of the end zone. Yeah, good. They're good on special teams. This is a good team across the board, man. And I think they're probably – I think they're going to go to the ACC title game. They'll beat Cal. They should beat Clemson. SMU's not as good as they were last year. So yeah, if they went out, now of course you've got Virginia who has head-to-head against them, and Georgia Tech has an easy schedule, I think, down to the stretch. But I mean, I think you can make an argument, since they beat Miami, that they're probably the best team in the ACC. Like UVA's.
I think UVA's got some L's on that schedule still.
Yeah,
the way it plays out.
They should have had some more L's than they had. I mean,
right.
when they beat Louisville, it was 2 defensive touchdowns.
It was, and then they beat them in overtime.
Right.
Which was, nice win for UVA.
Right. I mean,
but
full credit, but at the same time, what have they won? 3 overtime games?
3 overtime games. They got Cal, Wake Forest. It's a salty Wake Forest team. At Duke. Duke's a legit team. Then, VT at the end of the year, who knows how that turns out based on this season. But I think UVA comes back to the pack a little bit here.
Yeah, so in the ACC right now, you've got Georgia Tech's 5-0, UVA's 4-0. Then you have 5 one-loss teams: Pitt, Louisville, SMU, Duke, and Miami. So it's still pretty wide open.
And Louisville's got head-to-head on Pitt and Miami.
Right.
That could come into play.
Right. It could.
Or if it gets into a 3-way tiebreaker, that could come into play.
Yep.
Yeah, so all of those teams are in contention now. It's interesting when you look at that schedule. Louisville only playing 4 road games this season. Is that a little adjustment for them having to go more, home and not being used on the road?
Well, their only losses at home.
Yeah.
Let's see, their 2 road games.
And they went
beat
down,
Pitt at Miami.
They went down to Miami and won there a couple weeks ago. So.
Yeah. Now SMU will be somewhat of a long trip, but SMU doesn't seem quite as good as they were last year. So I think Louisville on balance seems to me like the best team in the ACC. Georgia Tech's defense isn't quite up to, well, I say not quite up to the Louisville level. Actually, they're nowhere close to Louisville level.
So Louisville has high hopes for the rest of this season. Meanwhile, Virginia Tech trying to keep the momentum after a nail-biter win over Cal last week. What would Virginia Tech really need to get going this week to pull off an upset against a team like this?
I think you got to get them behind the chains. Get them in 3rd and long. Don't turn the ball over and run the ball. I mean, if you can do that every week, you're not going to lose very often.
The basics of football.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's go with the same keys of every football game. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. This is when you try to shorten the game. Limit possessions. Don't get into a shootout with Louisville. You're going to lose that game if you get into a shootout with them. So can you do it? That's the tougher challenge than saying you can try to do it.
Yeah.
Well, sure, there's our basic tenets of football, but sometimes a team has such a significant advantage on you that you have to do all of it well.
Yeah.
You have to win the turnover battle. You have to run the football. Big play on special teams would be nice. You kind of have to bring everything to bear in order to win. Some weeks that's not true.
Well, now let's get to the big question, which is who is going to win this contest? Starting with Chris, who do you have winning this game?
Louisville 31-13. I just think this is a little bit of a bridge too far for the Hokies right now.
I said Louisville 35-22, I think it was. Louisville's given up more points in conference play than I thought. Every team's been up there in the 20s. And I know UVA scored a couple defensive touchdowns, so that's not on the Louisville's defense necessarily. But I'm surprised how many points some of the teams had scored against them in league play so far this year.
I've got Louisville 31, Virginia Tech 10. The fans so far in our preview, 277 votes, so there's a lot to go. But 65% have Louisville winning by 11 plus. Another 20% have Louisville winning by 1-10. So that's in the early voting. 85% of Hokie fans think that Louisville is going to win. Nick, do you need me to read your prediction, or you want to do it?
Yeah, you and David.
All right. So David, so Chris Me and David are all very similar. David's got Louisville 34, Virginia Tech 10, and Nick has got Louisville 27, Virginia Tech 16. So Louisville across the board.
Oh, look at that. Only 2 teams have held them below 30. Well, no, never mind. UVA did too. So 3. Never mind.
So a high-scoring offense for Louisville, and that's the direction of those picks. Well, that's the preview for this game, but it's October 30th. We've got a pumpkin on set. There's been spider webs up on the TV. We want to close out this podcast with what was the best Halloween costume you ever had, or if you have any stories to go along with that holiday historically.
Me and a few guys one time all dressed up as Ghostbusters, and remember going to the Army Navy store and buying the flight suits, got the actual patches. I did a good job on those uniforms. Didn't do the proton packs, but what I remember about it is, like, I didn't know one of the guys. It was a friend of a friend, and he was Egon. And I went back to the bar the next week, and the bartender's like, Egon didn't pay his tab last week, so I had to pay Egon's tab. I've never seen him since.
I had one, it's 8 or 9 or something like that, where I went as Brian Bosworth.
Oh, nice.
Because I had like a flat top back then, and I put like the stripes into the side with like paint on the side. So that was a really good one. And the other one, the last year that I did it was 1991. And Riley will appreciate this as a Minnesotan. He wasn't alive back then, but you were required as a Minnesotan to talk about the great 1991 Halloween snowstorm.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
He knows about that.
Yep.
He's heard about that from his kin in Minnesota here. That was the last year that I trick-or-treated. We got 30 inches of snow on Halloween night.
Nice.
So my friend and I are out there. I think I was like Richard Nixon or something like that. Like they had a Richard Nixon mask. I have no idea why, but it was actually pretty warm. But we're like trudging through this piling snow that gets higher and higher. And, nobody else is out there trick-or-treating. So every door you go to, people have so much leftover candy that they don't want. They're just dumping candy on us to the point that, like, we got to the end, it was a full pillowcase. I mean, it was such an incredible haul of candy at the end of it. It's like, that is the way that you end your trick-or-treating run. So that was my last one.
What is in a Richard Nixon costume?
It was just like a Richard Nixon mask, and there was like a shirt that said like tanned and relaxed and ready for a comeback or something like that. I forget what it was. It was a leftover costume that like my dad had from previously. So I don't know why, but I'm just like, that's what I'll go as for Halloween this year.
So my junior year in college was the year that Chicago was so good. The Bears were so good. They just dominated everybody except for my Miami Dolphins, which is one of the best Dolphins games I've ever seen. But I went to a Halloween party dressed as Jim McMahon. So I had the Jim McMahon jersey, and McMahon was famous for writing stuff on his headbands. So I had some headbands that I wrote some crude stuff on, and went to a party, and there was a girl in my circle of friends at the time who decided that night that she's like, that's the night I realized I wanted to date you. So wound up dating her my entire senior year, later got engaged to her. So that is quite the Halloween costume story. I went dressed up as Jim McMahon and wound up engaged.
Wow.
Not my current wife. That one did not last. I married somebody different later. Just want to clarify that.
Yeah. I saw somebody in Blacksburg one time dressed up as Daniel L. Crandall. If you're a local, you know who Daniel L. Crandall is. He had the beer. He was passing out Daniel L. Crandall business cards.
It's a very Southwest Virginia specific costume there.
Yes.
You have Cot with him? Cot?
No, that was before Cott and Crandall. Yeah, it was just Crandall. I saw somebody dressed up as Kenny Powers once. Was signing autographs for
You're
everyone.
effing out.
You're effing out.
Halloween is great. Like, as a parent now, it's so fun. I enjoy Halloween and going around, and my daughter's going as Eliza Hamilton, or Skylar's sister. This one, she has a little friend that's going as Angelica Schuyler. So it's enjoyable to walk around and see them get excited about that stuff. I always like it.
So you never know what's going to happen on Halloween night, but we also want to ask here, what is your favorite Halloween candy? If you receive this, I'm not trading that for anything.
I'm a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup guy.
I would say Snickers, little mini Snickers bars.
Yeah, I like them all. I'd probably a Twix. I like Twix.
Twix is pretty
I'm
good.
not giving those up. Yeah. But even other ones that I haven't liked in the past, like those are all right. Anything with coconut, you can have that. I don't like that stuff.
The best thing about Halloween candy is if there's a thing you didn't want, just go hang out with your friend or your cousin or whatever. You can trade, right? You can trade
Gumdrops.
Halloween
No, the
candy.
best thing of Halloween is the dad tax now. Like, here's this.
Yep.
Let me get you used to paying taxes now. This is how it works. Dad walked you around all night. And I'm just going to take 15% of your candy here. And maybe it's more than that when she's not looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Those are some great picks. Getting back to techsideline.com, is there anything special on the horizon that will be out there?
Normal Friday Q&A for me tomorrow, I believe. And Andy, you got a mailbag?
I got a mailbag today, so we'll be talking about coaching search as usual. That's the hot topic right now.
So we get the question all the time, not all the time, but I'll get emails from people saying, send this question to Andy for his mailbag. And I don't know how to submit questions for his mailbag. Andy and Chris both will come on the subscriber message board and say, I'm doing a mailbag or give me Friday Q&A questions. So that's where the strings are, where you can ask them a question that winds up in their articles. If it's a good question. If your question sucks, you're not making it.
Well, Nick, what do we have for audio video, as well as jump in on what your favorite Halloween memories are and what candy you're keeping?
So my grandfather was the captain of a destroyer in the Navy. And so my dad decided when I was 4, I think I decided I wanted to dress up as my grandfather. And so my mom, grandma, everybody pitched in, and I had a identical dress white outfit for him, and then my dad built a giant destroyer out of cardboard that I got to carry, and it had Nerf guns that shot a rocket off the front and one off the back, and it was pretty incredible.
That's
Very
awesome.
detailed as
Elaborate.
well.
You
I like
actually
Very
should have worn
detailed.
that today.
It would not have
very
fit here. I mean,
interested to
it
see that.
was big. I was probably 4, 5, or 6, and that thing was probably twice as tall as I was. I mean, it was incredible.
That's cool.
Favorite candy, anything Reese's, by the way. That's just what I live by. And chocolate. I don't like the fruit candies. I just think I don't know, just kind of gross. Anyways, on audio video, we had Megan Duffy on this week. She was fantastic. Broke some news, unfortunate news about freshman Kate Sears being out for the season, but broke the news on the podcast. That was pretty crazy. Talked about the new uniforms, how those came to be. And just getting ready for the season. She was fantastic. And she told us that the first time she was on last year, she was flustered because it was like her 3rd day in Blacksburg and she didn't know anybody or know what was going on. So when she came in, she was like, hey, I actually know who you guys are. I actually follow you guys. This is great. So I could actually have a legit conversation and I know my way around. So that was great. We also had the preview or the recap podcast on Monday, which was a lot of fun. What else do we have? Oh, Teal yesterday. That was awesome. If you want, like we said earlier, more about James Franklin. Teal, man, I don't know. Everybody thinks that he is in the back pocket of Whit Babcock, man. It is. He responded to some of his haters yesterday on Twitter in classic Teal fashion as well. Yeah.
So I had a text exchange with Teal this morning. I have ordered and have shipped to him a new webcam. So I was like, do you have a USB-C connector on your laptop? And he's like, I don't know. And he started sending me pictures and I was like, how old is that laptop? And he said, very. So I was like, okay. And he said, sure, send me the webcam as long as you send it with instructions. And I said, well, the instructions are labeled Tiny Teal, which is what he calls his daughter. She's like 14 years old. 14, Andy, roughly?
Something in high school, I think, at this point, or close to it.
She's not that tiny anymore, but I asked him, I said, do you still call her Tiny Teal? And he said, yeah, she likes it. She wants me to call her Tiny Teal. So David will have an improved webcam next time he shows up on Talking with Teal.
Well, that is great news right there. Make sure to check all of that out on Tech Sideline's YouTube channel. We have plenty of content that was released this week as well as upcoming in the future also. But we hope you enjoy your Halloween weekend wherever you may be, and thank you for watching episode 449 of the Tech Sideline podcast. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video if you haven't already. I want to thank Alex Kuchmeister for sitting in on this episode as well, and for Chris Coleman, Will Stewart, Andy Bitter, and Nick Brown behind the scenes. I'm Riley Klaus saying so long for now.